The time is 8:01 p.m. The date today is the 13th of June 2020. The day is Saturday. Memory Day in Hebrew Iconology T993. The day of remembrance. Today, I met a gentleman and he goes to the University of Ghana in Legon. And he had to sit an exam today. So I asked him what exam it was. And he said, it was International HR, International Human Resource. And I said, was it a multiple choice question or something? He didn't know. It's one question, 2 hours to answer it. And I said, what was it about? And he sent me a copy of the question. I'll read a question to you. Question. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership. Supporting your work with relevant literature and argument. Write on the topic, Globalization and Leadership in Africa. Be cogent with your submission. Let me read that again to you. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership. Supporting your work with relevant literature and arguments. Write on the topic, Globalization and Leadership in Africa. Be cogent with your submission. Now, this is why African education is not trusted across the world. This is why African education is not worth chasing across the world. This is why Africans die to get across oceans, to get an education that's recognized. Let me break it down for you. First, let's take the first sentence. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership. So, if I were a student at the University of Ghana, Legon, and I was in the International Human Resource Department and I was doing this exam, this is how I would approach this question. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership. Supporting your work with relevant literature and argument. Write on the topic, Globalization and Leadership in Africa. Be cogent with your submission. So, number one, I will tackle the issue, or the first bit of the question. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership. First, I would identify the several revelations that I personally have seen. And also, I will identify the revelations that are generally being spoken about. And one of the ones is that we have a broken political system across the world. We have a broken medical support unit across the world. We don't have enough. Just like we don't have enough food to support the world, we don't have enough medicine and medical units, doctors, nurses to support. Because the global pandemic, COVID-19, has revealed that everyone, even the first world countries who have actually suffered the most, are actually not ready for a pandemic. 2. The next bit, they say, supporting your work with relevant literature and arguments. Watch this. Every student, this is how I'll be thinking so I can answer this question. All these students are writing their final year exams. 1. They have been studying 4 years on any other topic but COVID-19. COVID-19 is months old. Although it started in 2019, it's months old. When COVID-19 came, the students were told to go home and lock down. They haven't had any tutorials. They haven't had any lessons on COVID-19. Everything they have right now is speculation, false media, Facebook media, this media, that media, that media. Why? Because the question says, with relevant literature, no literature on COVID-19 at this current moment is relevant. Why? Because no one has found anything that helps to either definitively say cures, or definitively says prevents, or definitively says kills. At the moment, all literature is irrelevant. Why? Because there is no answer in the literature, or there are no answers within the literature. So this is literature you expect the student to somehow grab, but the information has been decimated all over. No one knows the truth. Some of the information is filled with fake news. Some of the information is filled with how do I say it? Scaremongering. Some of the information are filled with doubts. So now, you haven't told, or you haven't given the students the relevant papers or the relevant guidelines as to what the relevant accepted literature on COVID-19 is, because they haven't had these discussions with you. They've just lived, or they are just living through COVID-19. So, in terms of you saying supporting your work with relevant literature, if I was a student and I was answering this question, I will make the argument that there is no literature currently that is worth calling relevant towards COVID-19, as no cure or no remedy has been accepted. Madagascar says they have one. Personally, I would say I've accepted it because it's natural and it's immune boosting, and the disease attacks your immune system. So if something builds your immune system, and that is proven, then that is not a cure, it's a preventative measure. And the phrase as it goes says, prevention is better than cure. So what Madagascar is claiming to have is actually better than the cure or the vaccine that everyone's looking for, because we don't want to get the disease in the first place and look for a vaccine. We want to prevent the disease from taking hold in the first place. So Madagascar are actually on the right track. But according to world literature, for example, accepted literature, WHO, World Health Organization, they haven't completely accepted this preventative measure, this logical preventative measure into acceptance. Hence why, for example, Ghana is not ordering them in bulk, but they should be, because it makes sense. But let's use logic. So get this. I will make that argument, and I'll say, so if there was any relevant literature that I believe could go here, it will be the only literature coming from Madagascar, because I will then be talking about the literature that supports the prevention of COVID-19. And then they said relevant literature and argument. So then I will present the argument. Why do we say prevention is better than cure, and we are looking for vaccines when we have a prevention that's better than the vaccine that's loaded with germs and crap? And that would simply be my argument. Why are we not looking further into prevention is better than cure, Madagascar's treatment? When we all have penned the saying down as a warning to ourselves that prevention is better than cure. That will be my argument. Now they say, right on the topic, globalization and leadership in Africa. So for globalization in terms of COVID-19, since there is no accepted literature because we're still going through it, I will say my personal opinion is, from what I have seen globally, the pandemic has divided the world not in two, but into fractions. It has divided the world into fractions, into political fractions, into social fractions, into class fractions, into racial fractions. Globally. And as to the leadership in how globally leaders have dealt with it, I would say the West failed because they knew they had warnings of it. They knew the right time to close the borders, but they didn't. And in the end, they suffered. They made a lot of wrong judgments. They didn't do the wrong calculations. Leadership was broken. And then they say, in Africa, so globalization and leadership in Africa. How has COVID-19 affected leadership in Africa globally as well? How has it reflected? Well, let's see. I would say if I was a student, I would say, because there's no accepted literature, because no literature can prove that it can cure. And the only accepted literature is the literature that proves prevention is better than cure. So, my personal opinion on the African leadership would be this. When African leaders saw that the West were having a problem controlling this pandemic, they should have made a calculation and analyzed each African leader individually and as a whole. They should have immediately made one decision, and the decision was, we medically do not have the facilities to support anything, let alone something that the West, who have been equipped and are ready for most things, are finding a problem. They should have made an assessment and realized, each government in Africa should have made an assessment and quickly realized that if this pandemic hits their shores, it will be worse for them than it is for the Westerners. Why? Because the Westerners are already ready, but they were not ready enough. But we were already lacking, meaning we're definitely not even close to ready. So my take on leadership in Africa is that the whole of Africa has a broken leadership system. They're not coherent. They don't analyze. They don't forecast. They don't predict. They don't care. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do this. Now, since most of the answers will have to be from personal opinion, as I'm living through the situation, and I currently am just as good of an expert as anyone else, because no one has answers, so anyone can chip in. So I will chip in and I will say, For example, in my country, Ghana, the leadership, the government should take into consideration that we have literally scathed by the skin of our teeth, and we're hanging on for dear life. And now, rather than us waiting on the Westerners who are suffering to come and test their vaccine on us before they use it on themselves, maybe we should practice. Prevention is better than cure methods. Prevention is better than cure methods. Maybe we should quickly call our brother in Madagascar and say, yo bro, wagwan G. Yeah, come chat. Let's line this up. Come, let's have a press conference. Let's have a conversation. Bring your scientists down. Let them explain it to my boys. Let my boys get onto it. Yeah, you get your patent rights. You get your everything right. But my people need to get the right thing. Because get this, I'm not gonna wait for this thing to hit my people and then get them something that we didn't produce. The saying is right. Prevention is better than cure. So my bro, bring that prevention cure here. Bring it here, bro. Bring it here. That's what I would say the Ghanaian leadership in Africa should do. Set a good example. Support our own industry. Support our own inventions. Support our own creativity. Use this pandemic and everything. We've been seeing it. Initially, when it came, everyone was rushing to buy hand gels or this or that. You understand what I'm saying? And they were all European or China or America. But initially, because of the emergency created and the opportunities also created, Ghanaians quickly found a recipe and started making it themselves. Ghanaians found that the opportunity has been created also for face masks to be produced. Those who could took opportunity. So with this disaster came opportunities, and as individual pockets who could took opportunities. But how did the Ghanaian leadership consort these individual talented groups together to make sure that next time there's a consortium of government leaders whose job is to seek innovators within us, within our youth, this, that. You understand what I'm saying? We don't have to wait for viruses. We know what viruses are. So put the challenge out. Think about what we need. Innovate. Come to the spot. Innovate. If you know your innovation is worth something, just come there. We will give it to you. Capture the innovation. Capture the creativity. Capture the knowledge. Record the knowledge. Create libraries of the knowledge. Because, get this, COVID-19. Listen, this is the argument I made, and I'll make this argument in my answer in this exam. Listen, I said, let's count every single year how many people die on Ghanaian roads filled with potholes, manholes. How many trotros? How many human being lives are lost? And let's weigh that against the lives lost due to COVID-19. If it's the case that roads kill and COVID-19 kills, and if they're killing at the same pace, then maybe we should do a lockdown. Because the roads are bad. Because we're gonna die because the roads are bad. Maybe we should do a lockdown and not care about the economy. Do you know why? Because we don't care. Why? Because if you do a lockdown because of COVID-19, the economy breaks. People suffer. People will die. More people died of hunger. More people died of stress. Listen, I know marriages. I know people that have died of stress during COVID-19.
Let's make Ghana great again. Yeah.
All the relationships on the side, extramarital affairs have come out. We found out, get this, in the whole of Accra, more people died of heartbreak than COVID-19. But there's no lockdown because of heartbreak. There's no lockdown because of the potholes in Ghana, but they're killing the same amount of people. The potholes in Ghana, they put businesses out. Why? Do you know how many trotros are unable to pay for roadworthy, this, that? Because get this, they spend so much money fixing the cars. Maybe we should do a lockdown for the sake of all these things. And then I would say, Africa has a weak global leadership spine. Why? Because from what I have seen, since there is no accepted literature, from what I have seen, it seems they take their orders from the West, but the West don't yet have an answer for themselves. And they're suffering more than you. So maybe you should concentrate on preventative cure, and you should concentrate on yourself quickly. And maybe you might even be in a position to help the West. That's when I realized that, get this, I'm glad I wasn't a student, and I'm glad I don't have to answer this question. I'm just giving you an example. This is me talking. But get this, because the University of Ghana, Legon, the International Human Resources Department, whoever set this question has a political agenda. Why? Because get this, they're looking for a hero. They're looking for someone to criticize the leadership of the current establishment. Because like I said, if they wanted a true paper and a true answer, then it can only come from an opinion. But the opinion is not just any opinion. It's your experience of the current events we're going through. Is your knowledge of the current events we're going through. Is what you have taken from there, put together and come to a summation. But the problem is, in a class of 200, you're going to have people with different political mindsets. And when you ask such a direct question in such times of trial and tribulation, I have a feeling that there's a storm within this question. There's an agenda to find out who would be the next student uprising. But putting all that political assertion aside, this is why African schools and African teaching and African certificates is bullshit. We want, listen, education is meant to seek the best out of the students. And the best out of the students is a collection of everything they've learned over a period of time. The longest time. And it's something they've taken their time to study. And anyway, education requires referencing. You've eliminated all that. Because there are no relevant literature. And there are no relevant arguments other than prevention is better than cure is the only argument. And asking about the leadership in Africa is just asking for trouble. It's just asking for trouble. But get this, it doesn't matter what anyone puts for this question. At the moment, the way the current situation stands, any opinion is a relevant opinion. Any opinion is an expert opinion until otherwise proven wrong. Where did you expect them to get their literature from, their relevant literature from, and support their argument with? Where did you want them to get their arguments from, other than prevention is better than cure? And what did you want them to really say about globalization and leadership in Africa? What did you honestly wanted them to tell you about the leadership of Africa? Do you want them to say that COVID-19 has exposed the fact that we have 73% of the world's resources, but yet the leadership of Africa is unable to fairly distribute this 73% of the world's natural resources that we rightly own fairly to its citizens? The University of Ghana, I believe you have actually set a question that passes everyone on this particular unit in the international human resources. If they answered this question, the COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership, supporting your work with relevant literature and arguments right on the topic globalization and leadership in Africa. Be cogent with your submission. Even if the person wrote WHY and a question mark, they are 100% correct. At the moment, all the expert community has are questions. Why? All presidents have are questions. Why? All we have are questions. Why? Everything is a question. There is no certainty. The only thing we can be certain about is wear your mask, protect yourself. But get this, the mask is a simple rag. Prevention is better than cure, but putting a rag on your face, there has to be something more. There has to be something more than a rag. Can a Ghanaian come up with something that is better than just putting a rag on your face? Can we concentrate, as Madagascar did, on prevention is better than cure? Can the University of Ghana please give itself a big clap for passing all its students? Listen carefully to this. I came home, I switched on the TV because I went somewhere to collect something. I came home, I switched on the TV, and there was a TV program on, and it's schools. So SHS, which is the little ones, yeah, the little ones, the middle school girls, yeah, and the boys. Different schools have met and they do plays. And one group decided to do a play. And the presenter asked them, what's your play about? And the girl said, sex for grades. And the girl said, sex for grades. And the presenter said, let's go. And they started showing us, yeah, how the teachers, yeah, get involved in sex for grades. Well, to their knowledge, because their story is one story. But I've also heard other stories. I've got loads of friends, you see. I've made friends with loads of girls in Ghana, and I'm hearing stories. Right, get this. Right now, one of my friends, yeah. Get this. One of my friends, yeah. She is University of Ghana. Madness. Hey, can you mark me, please? If I was on your course, which I am, I've actually enrolled him, yeah. For this particular unit only, International Human Resources. What would you score me? But get this, I have actually done my own models, because the COVID-19 pandemic has thrown into light that the models that we currently operate on are weak, outdated, and broken. They don't care, because get this, when COVID-19 came, if the models we operated on was human-centered, then you would have noticed that business would have straight away switched its profiteering side to then what? Help. It would have been an automatic. Immediately, the business world would have joined in with the government to immediately combat the problem. But no, the business world went into overdrive. Those who could make profit went into overdrive. Those who could still kill their business and now are claiming that governments should give them taxpayers' money to revive. No, listen, if their business is dead, for example, Richard Branson, the Virgin Airlines, yeah, if he's saying that without a tax break, that and without government injection, that he can no longer run it, then it's perfect for the nation, which is meant to pay, to take everything, yeah, and buy it for $1, £1, because he has forfeited, so they can take it back, put it back into state's hands, because you cannot take part of the infrastructure of a country out. Is the human being, he's unable to run the company, take him out, put people in charge of the infrastructure, bring it back into government holding, make it profitable again, and then get this, open shares to members of the public, so airports can remain in government hands and belong to the country, but have open shares that make the people of the country invest into it and make money. You have cargo coming, you have this coming, everything. So we can have public-owned companies, government-owned companies that open their books for the people to invest and buy shares in. So get this, I have my own models, because not just the pandemic, the political systems, 2020 in general, the COVID-19 is actually in the eyes of the media is everything. But when you look at the grassroots of everything, you would notice that the main problem is that we have broken political systems. The main problem is we have incoherent systems within our political systems. So for example, in England, the NHS is being broken down systematically by greedy individuals, and politically the elite have been paid to allow it to happen. They have shares in it. But members of the public who access the NHS, who pay taxes, who have kept it, don't have shares in it. But the NHS, get this, can be run on a shareholding system. Because get this, if private individuals can make money from running private hospitals. Then the government can make money from running its hospitals. Why? Because the National NHS Board can now open its board to international markets. Why? The people are paying to have these facilities, to have these best doctors here. So when the people have shares in it, they pay for the best doctors, the best hip operators, the best ear surgeons. So around the world, you will pay to come and do it here. And that's how we keep the NHS alive, for the people. It's the same in Ghana. But in Ghana, the health system is lacking a lot. But get this, we have so many girls, so many lovely girls, wanting to be nurses. Nurses. And when they do complete their nursing training, they go and some of them become kayo. But you see this girl that I'm talking about that completed her nursing training, became kayo. Let her get the opportunity and go to England. They will put her in the right place. Because get this, you see the English care system is fully aware that you see African women and African nurses. They do the job right. They do. They're really strong. They work more in an hour than they're meant to without realizing it, because they're afraid they may lose the job. They work as if they're doing a favor. They don't realize that they're actually the ones giving the favors. Because get this, listen, I'm going to open a care home in England. Yeah, it will be called Nana's Care Home. Nana's Care Home. Let me show you something, yeah. It will be housed by just African nurses, straight from the motherland. They will speak English, they will speak everything, straight from the motherland. And I'll tell them to treat you like they treat mom. Listen, your grandparents will tell you, oh no, just stay in Australia, don't bother coming, I'm alright. Yeah, Precious is here, I got Precious. You'll be scared that Precious will get your inheritance. It's a different type of system. COVID-19 is the least of our problems. There's a lot more killing us, disenfranchising us. But if COVID-19 has become part of the leadership problem, then we should first seek preventative measures. And we should stop making the education of our children political. This is what I wrote to the University of Ghana. University of Ghana, do you think this is a fair question for a final year student to answer? Question mark. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown up several revelations in global leadership, supporting your work with relevant literature and argument. Write on the topic, inverted commas, globalization and leadership in Africa. Be cogent with your submission, without expecting pure opinion, as there is no coherent literature or study with COVID-19. The crap is ongoing, thus one can't predict up or down. Are telling me after 4 years of studies in international human resources, you had no questions planned for a 2-hour exam. Plus, as everything about this crap is still not understood or known, and no one can be an expert on the subject, who do you want us to reference? Question mark. Please. Sorry, plus the beep that we have been preparing 7 years for this, and COVID-19 is only months old. How do you expect answers that are anything but personal opinions, as all the experts have proven to be as lame as we all are? University of Ghana, how do you justify this bullshit? You are trying to set a student up to either ways. 1, say nothing, or 2, talk about the African leadership mid-COVID-19 and get arrested for being an activist. But this question can only be rightly answered by one's personal experience, mid-COVID-19. Stop being political with our children's educational lives. Thank you.